As I make these videos about human-computer interaction, there is a whole creative process that happens in the background, which I find very interesting. So my hope is to experiment with a series of videos that just shares the behind the scenes, my thoughts, my creative process, why I made some decisions and why I didn't, to gather some ideas and gather some feedback as well. My goal is to remove that barrier. Everything you see online is so perfect, so neat, and I want to remove that barrier and show you how it actually is. So hopefully we can create a vulnerable space where we can share the things that worked, the things that didn't, and we learn along the way. So today I will talk about the thinking process and the reason why I decided to jump into working with the YouTube channel. So I'll do my best to break it down in two parts. Part number one about the audience, part number two about the creators. So myself. So before we get started into any of those parts, I need to walk back and tell you a little bit of a story. As I started studying human-computer interaction, there were so many interesting facts that I learned, but somehow they were all buried into this academic jargon, into these research topics, which is fine, that's the way it's written. But I felt it was inaccessible to most people, including me. And I thought, well, maybe if all of these are really interesting to me, I'm sure they're interesting to other people, and specifically to adjacent segments like engineering, design, psychology. Why don't I figure out a way where I can bring these concepts and share them in a very fun and engaging way? And that's where the idea sort of started marinating. And I basically did this exercise where you take a wall and you divide it into 3 columns. So you take a bunch of post-it notes and you write one skill or one thing you really like to do every day if you could. And each post-it note goes into that column. And you end up with a set of skills or things you like to do. In my case, there were like 3D printing, animation, storytelling, research. There was some electronics, some programming or making things. And I found that very interesting because on the other side of the column, then you have your ultimate goal or something you would like to achieve. That could be, let's say, financial freedom, that could be geographical freedom, that could be being excited about your work, that could be anything you want. That could be a ultimate made-up goal that you have. It's very personal. You write whatever you want. And in between, you have the middle column, and here's where you figure out what are you going to do every day to get to that spot. Like, what are opportunities that you can have to get you from the things you like to do to the ultimate goal you have. And basically you can find things like online competitions that you could apply for, or grants if you like to do research, for example, or start a YouTube channel is another option, or sharing stories about your personal day. What happened to me was that I left the post-it notes there for weeks. I didn't take them out and I didn't see it at the moment. But after about 8 weeks, what happened was that one of those moments occurred to me where you start seeing the specific post-it notes light up, and then I somehow connected the dots and I was like, maybe there is something along researching, 3D printing, creating, storytelling, HCI, and making stories. And that became the form of videos that can be shared in the YouTube channel. So that was a very interesting moment that I started marinating, and this was probably like 8 months ago, where I just started thinking that this could be a possibility. So it's not something you start right away, at least not for me. Until one day, a few weeks ago, there was something that told me I need to pursue this, even if it's not successful, but I need to see how this story plays out. Imagine, something I really like to do is that sometimes you just need to make decisions as if you are reading a book and you're following the protagonist of that story. And you need to sometimes make decisions to ensure that the story is interesting. And one of those things was this. I needed to see how this played out. Maybe it goes nowhere. And this led me to a process where I needed to be very straightforward with myself, and I needed to basically be vulnerable and be very explicit with the things I liked and the things I didn't. I basically had 2 non-negotiables. Number one, this needed to be financially sustainable. I was not gonna go and spend all the money into a new camera or lights, anything. No. I'm recording with my phone. I can't show you because it's this one, the one I'm using to record. I use natural light. I don't have a specific light. I'm doing it as it is. Very simple and very straightforward. The second part is that I needed to enjoy it. So I decided to just do an experiment with a few videos, which is the first season you're about to see, and see if that's something I enjoy, if that's something I would like to continue doing and continue the process. So once I was really clear with that, my thought process was, how do I start or how do I jump in? And this process was very interesting because it helped me figure out the things I was good at and the things I was not. And it got me to a moment where I needed to be very vulnerable and straightforward and honest with myself and say like, hey,
I'm not the best editor, I'm not the best videographer, I've never even done color, don't even know what that is. I've never done sound, all of this is new to me. So I needed to figure out a lot of things. Let's do it.
But to me that was very important because it is very easy for you to say, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel, and you have all of these ideas on how other people do it. And then once your skills are not up to the level of where you need to be to do what you have in your head, then is when you start getting disappointed. So I needed to be very straightforward of where my skills were and where my skills were not. And that doesn't mean that I cannot achieve those skills. I can definitely do it in the process, but I need to be clear that at the beginning, those things were going to be work in progress. So I knew that my value add is going to be more on the side of make something, synthesize information, take human-computer interaction concepts and put them in a very interesting package and into a video. All the video and editing and all that creative process is very interesting, but it's been a learning process for me. I've never done it in my life. I'm recording with my phone. I'm figuring things out along the way. And yeah, sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes I need to figure things out, or sometimes things don't come out as they are in my head. But sometimes as well, things come out even better than they were in my head. And there was something that I've never seen, and that's why I couldn't imagine it. And somehow as I was making it, it just worked. And that's where this process has been the most interesting for me, is to always let myself be surprised or inspired by the things I don't know and the things I need to go and figure out along the way. So to wrap it up, I think that's the message I want this video to be about, which is be honest and truthful with yourself, and specifically on the things that you are good at and the things you are not really good at, or the things that you need to learn along the process. But don't let that be a blocker, because as you start and as you do things that you don't know, there are things that will surprise you along the way. And once those things surprise you, those are where the magical moments of who you are and how you share your stories and how you share the things you make are special and are unique. Thank you for staying until the end. I have no idea how this video will turn out, so let's see. Whew, that was awkward.